Welcome in. Coming up on today's program, net worth equals net wealth. You're watching What's Next with Money, a program with smart insights to guide your financial decisions. Let's get started. Net wealth. Hey, it's a new standard to living, growing, and giving. The net worth statement is such a powerful tool to drive financial achievement, balance, a long view of money. It's your financial GPS. This is like a little GPS tracker if you're skiing out of bounds or snowboarding and you get lost or possibly in an avalanche. Your net worth statement will keep you out of trouble and give you the ability to even self-rescue yourself over time financially. So what is net worth? It's so basic. It's assets minus liabilities. What you own minus what you owe. And we have all heard it before. It's not how much you make, it's how much and what you keep. And those that have had storied challenges of net worth, like losing it all, or maybe all they have is not really real, that's known as all hat and no cattle. And to commemorate that, we're going to leave this little cattle guy up here. There we go. Another way to look at that, with an asset pool that gets some people in trouble, I'm house rich, but I'm cash poor. I don't have enough to pay my taxes, or I'm having trouble handling mortgage payments or putting food on the table. So there are great benefits to know what your worth is, appreciate what you have, and actively work to go to the next level. It's like a financial coordinates or a physical of your financial health, but it's a snapshot in time. I view it as a net wealth statement, and many folks call it a balance sheet, but I'm going to show you a more integrated way of imagining a net worth statement that humanizes it with individual and family goals, and it's a tool you'll want to use because it's going to propel you forward. It can help you avoid pitfalls and perhaps ultimately leave a legacy. And we can make it a simple tool, easy to update, that you want to use each year and compare them from year to year to build that sense of momentum. Now, we can use net worth in many ways. We can use it to integrate our spouse and partner assets and liabilities, blend them in with ours. It can be a great thing for a pre-marriage organization of finances. It can be inspirational when listing goals and funding sources. You see the future and it draws you forward, and perhaps you gain hope and excitement. Savings and investing and debt reduction strategies tied to goals to help you get there. It's a great tool when you're interviewing or working with a financial planner or advisor. They'll want to see it, and they'll help build it for you if you engage them as a client. It's super for estate planning and management for you, your attorney, financial advisors, executor, surviving spouse, and heirs. It can even include how the assets are titled, and you can identify gaps through that listing. For me, it builds my risk tolerance, my financial muscle, again, taking that long view of money. Now, sometimes I might not want to update it or look at it because of a market downturn. I'll look at maybe past issues when I've gotten through prior downturns, and that gives me some encouragement. But I do save it each year, and I can see my progress. I've assigned jobs and purpose to my assets, and they're noted on the net worth statement. And it's a super tool. For me, it has helped me pay down debt aggressively and appropriately. And guess what? As debt is erased and those liabilities lowered, net worth rises. It's a super motivator. It's another way to declutter your financial life. It adds account clarity, and you can list assets in your net worth statement, and it may show you that you might have too many of the same thing. You might have a few contributory IRAs that should be consolidated to a rollover, or a forgotten 401k account from a part-time employment situation. Even for your kids, that you could roll over to a contributory IRA or a Roth rollover if it was a Roth account. The net worth statement is akin to the money map video, and I'm going to have a link to that. But instead of for the money map showing accounts and how money moves and flows and the location, the listing of advisors, and the interconnectedness of how paychecks work, the net worth statement uses actual dollars so you can get a real picture of ownership, value, and progress of asset allocation, showing how accounts are titled if you want to do that, debt levels, and ancillary accounts, each with their own unique purpose and role in your life. Here's what net worth is not. It does not replace the income statement, the profit and loss over a period of time, which is really income minus expenses. It's not a budget. Now, these are vital to know, and your spending plan and to live beneath your means, spending less than you make, for positive and free cash flow. And by the way, let me just mention what free cash flow is. It's a concept in business. It's really interesting that a company will have extra cash left over after paying all its operating expenses and maintaining its capital expenditures, like its plant and equipment. So the more free cash flow a company has, the more it can allocate to dividends, paying down debt, and growth and investing opportunities. This is from our friends at Investopedia. But think about it for the household. The more free cash flow you have, we have fuels our net worth. And that more that you are saving and can invest in other investable assets, they become growth opportunities. So note, the paying down of debt part of free cash flow, this concept comes alive on a net worth statement and is highly trackable. It might provide motivation to retire debts you might owe, sell assets with debt and maintenance costs. Hey, like dumping that timeshare. For example, paying down your home mortgage allows you to eventually acquire a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, to basically have borrowable cash. You kind of be your own bank. You can borrow money off your house to buy other investment properties. I've done that twice. Net worth showcases large asset purchases. What you bought, what the item is worth now, and really, was it a good value? I list my cars, my used cars. I put on the acquisition price and track annually its value in the marketplace, like at Edmunds.com or Car Gurus. And then I do invest to maintain that capital expenditure over time, freeing up free cash flow instead of buying a new one. Now we'll look at two approaches to a net worth statement. Basically, I want to show you two structures you can use. And you can find many examples on the internet for this. And here's the first one. You list assets, and then under that, cash. Now, cash here is considered kind of liquid assets. Savings, checking, liquid mutual funds. Mutual funds in a taxable account, you can sell right away. You'll have to pay tax on it, but it's not in a retirement account. And then there are investments, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and ETFs can fit into that category, but they may not be as liquid, or you may not want to sell them right away. Then still under assets, retirement accounts. And that could include another kind of asset, rental real estate. All different kinds of investments. And then there are personal assets, your home, your car, furnishings. We now list liabilities. Home loan, mortgage, car loan. These are known as secured loans under this typology. Then there's a category of unsecured loans, credit card loans or credit card balances, student loans. Here, you add up your total assets, add up your total liabilities, and subtract. You get your net worth. Here's the second net worth structure or typology you might consider. Now, this one is modeled at what I use, and I have injected into it a titling function, which I think is helpful for the estate planning and also to make sure you're managing things correctly. So the first thing I list are joint assets. Now, we're not getting into liabilities. We're in the asset zone. But these are jointly titled, like house, checking account, my cars. Again, I list the years, I put in the mileage each year, and the current resale value. That's very trackable. It might tell me eventually what I need to save to replace that used car with another used car. Timeshare, that could be listed as $0, but it might be jointly held. Then furnishings, collectibles. Now, for the first spouse, husband or wife, it can be a broker, now under assets, titled in their name, a brokerage account. It could be in a living trust that has joint authority over, but it's a living trust in that person's name for estate purposes. Retirement accounts are always held in an individual's name. So here, it's like my IRAs, my Roth IRAs, my 403B or 401k. One thing I add is if I'm contributing monthly or periodically to that item, or maybe even an annual purchase, I put a little multiple dollar sign by it to indicate that this is one I keep contributing to. I bonds, the inflation savings bonds, they're inflation adjusted. I add also a little dollar sign because I'm now buying those annually and even working my tax refund to acquire more. That's inflation adjusted. I put a little IA by it to indicate that it's inflation adjusted. Social Security. Now, I haven't started claiming Social Security. I have my target claiming date set likely at age 70. And that's inflation adjusted. And I will note that even though I'm not claiming it, it's like there on the net worth statement, that's going to be something of value there. If I have a pension, I might list the target age of where that starts. And that's unlikely to be inflation adjusted. For my spouse, she'll have a brokerage account, probably in a living trust type name. She might have a Roth IRA, 401k, health savings account, depending on her health insurance status. Did she receive an inherited IRA from a deceased relative? Now, the rules for distribution of these has changed a lot. If it's not a spousal IRA, not a spousal inheritance, all these accounts, retirement accounts, have to be liquidated through required minimum distributions within a 10-year time span. So what I'm going to note on the net worth statement is when that 10 years is over, because I want to track it and not incur tax penalties for messing that up. I bonds, also Social Security. Now, those are assets. Liabilities. That could be mortgage, home equity line of credit, auto loans, maybe student loans. I could list those against each individual or just have them kind of in a joint liability area if they're not too many. Now, I can obtain a net worth that way, but I might have some other types of assets that flow into the overall net wealth approach. And that could be a small business, an LLC, a company that has real estate assets. In these, I'm going to list them separately. For assets, it would be a business checking account, the actual asset of the business, how it's valued, and maybe how it's valued, or how the valuation is determined for the small business, the real estate holdings, maybe even the basis for that, and any special equipment like a truck or something. And that would be in that LLC category. And then I'm going to have the liabilities for that, the business loan, investment real estate loan. And then I can get a net worth value of that business. But I could roll the net worth of the business. I can then add that into the net worth of all the personal finances, and I get a bigger total net worth picture. And that's exactly what I do on my statement. Now, I've recently added, outside of those calculations, a special listing with a kind of dividing line. I call these special accounts outside of net worth. 529 education fund. Now, I could actually spend that on me or my spouse. It's really designed for grandkids. But I list how it's funded, and then each year I list how the account's gone up or down. Special needs trust, ABLE account for a disabled child. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. ABLE is relatively new. It's kind of state-based, but it's like a 529 account for a disabled child. I actually have a disabled child, and I have got to have those set up in this special area. Donor advised fund or charitable gifts. I don't have a private foundation, but I've set up a couple donor advised funds for my wife and I to donate to charity. And these are monies from appreciated stock that have gone in. We've already received tax deductions for them, and now they're in kind of these little foundation buckets, appropriately managed in balanced mutual funds. And then gifts to charity can be given out of those. I also note in this net worth statement any updates on estate, gift, and inheritance tax numbers or limits. And for some states, some of you folks have inheritance taxes, unfortunately. So don't forget to hit that subscribe and smash that like button. It helps move our content to more people. Non-commercial, non-conflicted, non-profit, and it's free. We're talking about net worth statements, net wealth. And these are enhancements now that I have used or I'm considering using. Special notations you can add to that net worth, net wealth statement. Here we go, like listing the purpose of different accounts. This is like the idea of restricted accounts in a nonprofit or a corporation. You keep those untouched except for their intended purposes. And I would even add anticipated use dates. These are special funds with investment of appropriate risk and duration for the timing of the goal. Retirement, emergency savings, college savings, disability support, medical and healthcare expenses, housing down payment, upgrades, rental property acquisition, small business savings. Here's one everybody can tie into. Weddings, funeral. Save for that. You don't know what's going to happen. Quinceanera, graduation, incentive gifts for kids. And then timing of Social Security, annuities, pensions, target dates for the estimated monthly payouts. By listing the optimal target dates, especially claiming Social Security as late as you can up until age 70, you are driving those paychecks higher and higher, and they're all inflation adjusted. So that adds discipline and rigor to your financial well-being. Now, special liability or spending situations can impact your net worth. Now, here is where you might want to list the targeting payoff of a certain debt. Now, a while back, I got a 10-year commercial loan to help with my real estate company, and I could have paid the minimum on that or just a little extra. And if I did that at near the end of the 10 years, I'd have to get another loan. I'd have to re-up. But knowing that date, I've targeted it. That loan's actually going to be paid off in a couple months, a year or two early from that 10-year time frame. So what do you do if you're targeting a certain debt, you're adding money to pay that off? In your net wealth statement, why not make a notation what you intend to do with that free cash flow that's attacking that debt or maybe saving that certain fund? When that is completed, what are you going to do with that? So you got the Dave Ramsey snowball method where you attack debts aggressively and then that money could go to the next debt. What if you're out of debts to attack? Build up your emergency, fund another goal, increase charitable giving, move into professional development. Maybe it's time to spend something on special experiences. Here's some other ideas. You could set up a loan for a child, maybe an adult child with certain terms and a signed contract to help them start a business, or maybe it's a loan to help them with house down payment, or it could be a gift. You might have special performance incentives for a child that might involve cash, stocks, or even a used car. Down payment help, as we mentioned. Family gifts to draw down excess money from the estate. Allowed annual gifts from your net worth statement. You could be assisting aging parents or disabled relatives. And of course, in my net worth construct, I've added titling of assets and liabilities. joint tenancy, individual ownership, trust, retirement assets. Remember, those are individual ownership, and they, like life insurance, have beneficiary designations. And even some of your savings and checking accounts can have a transfer on death account designation. And by doing that, having the beneficiary designations up to date, and you might refresh that annually because you're kind of looking at your net worth statement annually, and adding those transfer on death notations, you keep all that stuff out of probate. You keep it pulled together very effectively. And you can always set up a living trust for a big brokerage account. Now, windfall destinations. What happens if your household is lucky to receive an inheritance, some prize money, something special, maybe a structured settlement from a lawsuit? This is the idea of sudden money. If you want to know more about sudden money, check out the Sudden Money Institute. Susan Bradley, CFP, is a great pioneer in the thinking in this area. Now, I have a video called My Lottery Fantasy, and it addresses a lot of the sudden money syndrome. It's a fun video. It can help you dream and think. You're not going to be playing the lottery, but it's like, what would I do? What are the priorities I would set if an infusion of money came my way in terms of investments, charity, debt reduction, handling large tax payments on the sale of property or certain windfalls, replenishing savings, family assistance, or other goals. It's a fun way to dream and think, and your net worth statement can be a place to help organize that. Now, what about assets in jeopardy? You've listed all these great assets, and hopefully you're going to find more and be diversified and properly titled and all that. But what are the risks to some of your assets and your lifestyle? Climate change, emergencies, natural person-made disasters, physical locations, market and economic events, health, disease, disability. We just had a pandemic. Now, these might negatively impact these events, the valuation of an asset, and it should be noted. So all you're doing here is pre-noting the possibility of risk. It may lead you to focus on mitigation, selling that asset, relocating, doing something to stay ahead of the curve on some of these changes. We've got 2 great videos on climate change and disaster prep and recovery. Also links in the comments section for those. There may be other risks and protections you want to think about. Your nest egg and your net worth is also perhaps a target of danger. These should be disclosed to be aware of risk in your financial status. Are you possibly subject to lawsuits? Do you have proper insurance on your cars, boats, home, especially liability coverage and the umbrella liability rider on top of homeowners and auto? And there's special riders for certain perils like flood, earthquake, sewer backup. And then there's this, what I might call human capital insurance. Some of this comes from your employer. Health insurance, life insurance, group life, disability, long-term care. And a big danger, folks, and we have to be really cognizant of this, to your net worth is divorce. All you have to do is check out the Blues Brothers 2000 movie and the song, It's Cheaper to Keep Her. Now, insurance is another area, and this is generally not covered or listed in a net worth statement. But it is on the Money Map video, and you can add this to each asset or person covered in the net worth statement if you choose, if that's important. Now, asset allocation. Also, you could list some of that, but usually that is a separate document. It ties into your investment policy statement, the notion of rebalancing. It can help you create a more micro-focused, holistic picture of your investments, how they're spread across the different accounts, and have a whole household view of that. But you can use that net worth statement to supplement and build that total financial picture of all your accounts, making sure they're all listed and accounted for, all real estate, annuities. And if you're fortunate enough, maybe unfortunately somebody dies, but there's an inheritance, those type of accounts start to be introduced as accounts that are inherited. They may have to be spent down. There may be tax issues with those, certainly maintenance. and they might have to be sold or distributed in some other manner or even gifted to charity. So what I like to do on the net worth, I note certain assets that I have that might be inflation adjusted. They're not many, but there are a few. I do indicate if the account pays off dividends or capital gains. Do I reinvest those, or do I let the cash flow out to add to my free cash flow? I have little indicators, little abbreviations that indicate that. It's important to add dates when certain activities come into play. Like that business loan I talked about, that 10-year length. I needed to put the target end date of that so I could outrun it or be prepared to refi and negotiate a new loan. Your mortgage loan, what is the term on that? What's the interest rate? Is it adjustable? Student loans, are those fixed or variable? Car loans, the start date that you may want for your retirement, phased retirement, when you're going to take Medicare, required minimum distributions. And again, inherited IRAs now have this shorter time frame. They have to be liquidated within 10 years. If you got a CD or some fixed income, you might throw in the maturity dates for those. And then there's always human capital assets. Again, this is up to you if you want to add that, but it's really your ability to earn income. Now, this would not normally go on a net worth statement, but maybe a net wealth statement is appropriate. You can think of your earnings, your wages and salaries, as payments that flow out. Your paycheck is like a bond. It's paying steady interest or dividends. It's a steady payout. People with very good income earnings, their human capital ability to earn a paycheck, can often have more investments, especially earlier in their growing up years, in equities because of that longer time horizon. And for retirement, just working a little longer, part-time or in phased retirement, helps that bond payment, that wage income keep rolling out. Even though if it's part-time, it becomes a smaller paycheck, but it's a real income source that you can add to a cash position, to emergency fund, to cash savings that you can use in retirement. Part of human capital management could be listing degrees, certifications, apprenticeships, trainings that either you have, you're pursuing, or you're targeting. And then you would look at your employee benefits. Is there a way I could acquire this or get some partial subsidy for it? Could the acquisition of those credentials up my salary, up my income, and make me indispensable in times of downturn or recession? This is part of your money earning engine outside of asset performance, outside of dividends, interest, capital gains, rents, and business income. Now, I think for a net wealth statement, a super list to add, and this brings it all in perspective, is something called a money can't buy list. What's yours? This is building on the concept of gratitude, family, time, love, network, faith, living in America, living now with good health care, safety, and opportunities. Even your social networks and the availability of information at your fingertips from YouTube. What about the values you've learned or are still discovering, the values you're sharing with others? The privilege of living in your neighborhood and community, serving others, your family legacy, and of course your personal reputation. These are the intangibles. And of course there's a great anonymous quote that says, if you want to feel rich, just count all the things you have that money cannot buy. That truly is net worth than aspiring and moving up to net wealth. So be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Plus, don't forget to share. Remember, new episodes of What's Next with Money are posted on Thursdays.